All right, ready for a deep dive into something pretty wild.
Oh, I'm always up for a wild deep dive. What do we have today?
Well, we're talking about blue blood.
Blue blood. Like royalty.
No, not that kind of blue blood. We're talking about creatures who actually have blue blood, literally blue blood pumping through their veins.
Oh, wow, I've heard about that. It's because of a different protein in their blood, right?
You got it. Hemocyanin. It's like the hemoglobin in our red blood, but instead of iron, it uses copper to bind oxygen. And that's what gives the blood that blue color.
Copper. Interesting. So no Smurfs then?
No Smurfs, unfortunately. But we do have some pretty amazing creatures to talk about. Octopuses, squid, horseshoe crabs, even some spiders and scorpions. They all have blue blood.
It's quite a range.
Yeah.
What's the connection? Why blue blood?
Well, that's what we're going to explore today. Why does blue blood exist? Who has it? And what advantages does it give them? We're going to dive into the deep sea, the icy poles, even scorching deserts to find out.
Sounds fascinating. So where do we start? Give me the basics. How does this hemocyanin actually work? What makes it so different?
You know, I was wondering the same thing. It seems counterintuitive, right? We're so used to thinking of blood as red.
It's definitely different. In our blood, hemoglobin is neatly packaged inside red blood cells. It's a very organized system.
Right, makes sense.
But in a lot of these blue-blooded creatures, the hemocyanin just floats freely in their blood plasma.
No dedicated cells, so it's just out there mingling with everything else.
Pretty much. And when it grabs onto oxygen, those copper atoms react, turning the blood blue.
Ah, so that's the color change in action. But why is this better for some creatures? What's the advantage?
Well, here's the thing. Hemocyanin is most effective in cold, low-oxygen environments. Think deep sea, polar regions, places where our red blood wouldn't cut it.
So if we jumped into the deep sea, our blood would be at a disadvantage.
Definitely. Our hemoglobin loves warm, oxygen-rich environments like the air we breathe. But in the deep sea, where it's freezing and oxygen is scarce, it wouldn't be able to deliver oxygen efficiently. Hemocyanin, on the other hand, thrives in those conditions. It's like a specialized tool for extreme environments.
Okay, no, that makes sense. So it's all about adaptation, right? The right tool for the right job.
Exactly. Nature is full of amazing adaptations like this.
So let's meet some of these blue-blooded champions. I'm ready to be amazed. What do you say we start with the deep sea?
Sounds good to me. Let's talk cephalopods. Octopuses, squid, cuttlefish, they're the masters of the deep, and their blue blood is a big part of that.
Octopuses are already pretty alien-looking with those 8 arms and all.
Oh, and don't forget their 3 hearts.
3 hearts? Wait, what?
Yeah, 3 hearts. It's all about maximizing efficiency in a low-oxygen environment. 2 of those hearts pump blood to the gills, where the hemocyanin picks up oxygen. Then the 3rd heart circulates this oxygenated blood to the rest of the body.
Wow. So it's like a supercharged circulatory system, specifically designed for the deep. But hold on, I remember reading something strange about octopuses and their hearts. Something about their main heart stopping when they swim.
Oh, that's right, it's true. Swimming for an octopus is actually pretty strenuous because of that. It's much more efficient for them to crawl along the seafloor.
So that's why they prefer to crawl. Fascinating. Now, while we're talking about extreme cold, we have to talk about the Antarctic octopus. They live in near freezing waters. How do they manage to survive in those conditions?
They're the perfect example of how hemocyanin concentration can vary based on the environment. Antarctic octopuses have incredibly high levels of hemocyanin in their blood, allowing them to extract oxygen from that frigid water with amazing efficiency.
It's mind-blowing how life finds a way, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we're just getting started.
So we've explored the deep sea and now the icy poles. What other extreme environments have creatures with blue blood adapted to?
Well, believe it or not, even scorching deserts have some blue-blooded residents.
Wait, really? Deserts? That seems like the complete opposite of those icy poles in the deep sea.
I know, right? It's amazing.
Okay.
That's what makes this whole blue blood thing so fascinating. It's so versatile. Remember those scorpions we mentioned earlier? Well, some of them live in deserts, and their blue blood is actually a key part of how they survive those extreme conditions.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. How does blue blood help creatures survive in a desert? It's hot, dry, and oxygen levels must fluctuate like crazy throughout the day. How does that work?
Well, it all comes down to temperature. Turns out that hemocyanin's efficiency in binding and releasing oxygen is affected by temperature. In colder temperatures, it holds on to oxygen more tightly. But as temperatures rise, it loosens its grip and releases oxygen more readily.
So it's like their blood has a built-in temperature control system.
Exactly. It's a brilliant adaptation. Take a desert scorpion, for example. During the heat of the day, when its metabolism is running high, that hemocyanin is readily releasing oxygen to its tissues, giving it the energy it needs to stay active. Then at night, when temperatures drop and its metabolism slows down, the hemocyanin adjusts, conserving oxygen.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like their blood is constantly adapting to the changing conditions, keeping them one step ahead of that harsh environment. This whole discussion about blue blood is making me think about its potential for us humans. If it's so good at helping creatures survive in extreme environments, could we learn something from it? Could it have any applications for human health or technology?
You're actually thinking along the same lines as some scientists. Researchers are exploring a number of potential applications for hemocyanin that could have a big impact on human health. One promising area is its potential as an oxygen carrier in artificial blood substitutes.
Hold on, artificial blood, are we talking about creating blue blood for humans?
Well, it's not quite that simple. But the idea is to use hemocyanin's ability to bind and transport oxygen to create a synthetic blood product. It could be a game changer for emergency situations, transfusions for patients with rare blood types, even for use in challenging environments like high-altitude regions.
Wow, that would be revolutionary. But wouldn't there be challenges in adapting a protein from, say, a horseshoe crab to work in the human body?
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely hurdles to overcome. Researchers are looking at ways to modify hemocyanin to make it compatible with our physiology and to make sure it's safe and effective.
What other medical applications are scientists looking into?
Another really interesting area is its potential as an immunostimulant. Hemocyanin can actually stimulate the immune system.
So it's like giving our immune systems a boost.
Exactly. Some studies suggest that adding hemocyanin to vaccines could make them more effective. That could mean stronger and longer-lasting immunity. It's still early, but there's a lot of potential there.
That's amazing. Are there any other areas where hemocyanin might be beneficial?
Believe it or not, scientists are even looking into its potential in cancer research.
Really? Blue blood fighting cancer. I never would have guessed that.
I know, it's pretty wild. Preliminary studies have shown that hemocyanin can actually inhibit the growth of certain types of cancer cells.
That's incredible. So we could be talking about everything from artificial blood to boosting our immune systems to even fighting cancer. Who knew blue blood held so much potential?
It just goes to show that nature often has the answers to some of our biggest challenges. We just have to be open to exploring the unexpected.
This is mind-blowing. So from the deep sea to the desert to potentially our own bodies, blue blood is turning out to be a lot more sophisticated than I ever imagined. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm curious about something. You mentioned earlier that hemocyanin's oxygen binding is affected by temperature. Does that have any other implications for the creatures that rely on it? So we were talking about how temperature affects how well hemocyanin can bind to oxygen.
Right.
And it seems like that could have implications beyond just how much oxygen gets delivered.
Oh, definitely. That temperature sensitivity is actually really important for regulating temperature in lots of these blue-blooded creatures.
Okay, now you've got me curious. How does blue blood help regulate temperature?
Well, just think about it for a second.
Okay.
Metabolic processes, all those things going on inside a creature's body, they generate heat.
Right.
And the rate of those processes, including how much oxygen gets used,
Mm-hmm.
that's affected by temperature too. So you end up with this sort of feedback loop.
So the temperature affects oxygen use and oxygen use affects temperature. It's all connected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And hemocyanin is right in the middle of all that.
Makes sense.
By adjusting how strongly it binds to oxygen based on the temperature, it helps these creatures keep their internal temperature stable, even when the temperature around them is changing a lot.
So in colder temperatures, it holds on to oxygen more tightly to make sure there's a steady supply for all those essential processes.
Right.
And in warmer temperatures, it releases oxygen more readily so they don't overheat.
Exactly. It's like their blood has a built-in thermostat. Pretty neat, huh?
That's incredible. It's like their blood is constantly adapting, keeping everything in balance. This whole deep dive has been amazing. I'm starting to think blue blood is way more complex than I ever realized.
It really shows you the power of evolution,
It does.
These creatures have evolved this incredibly elegant solution to survive in some of the most challenging environments on Earth.
So as we wrap up our blue blood adventure, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that there's just so much we can learn from nature.
Yeah.
Blue blood is a perfect example of that. It challenges us to think differently about what's possible. And it reminds us that there are so many ways to solve problems. Who knows what other secrets are out there waiting to be discovered in the natural world?
It's a good reminder to stay curious, isn't it? To keep exploring and asking questions.
Absolutely. And to appreciate the incredible diversity and ingenuity of life on Earth.
Well said. And hey, who knows? Maybe someday we'll even see blue blood being used to benefit our own lives.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
Like you said, the possibilities are endless.
The future of science and medicine is full of exciting possibilities. And I have a feeling we'll be hearing a lot more about this amazing protein hemocyanin in the years to come.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Already? Wow. Time flies when you're having fun.
It really does.
This has been a great conversation.
I agree. Thanks for joining us today. It's been a pleasure exploring the world of blue blood with you.
The pleasure was all mine.
Yeah.
And to everyone listening, thanks for coming along in this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and never stop being amazed by the wonders of the natural world.